What's up, everybody? It's time for another Talking Comics with me, Right Agenda. Today I want to go over the Spider-Man Noir TV series. I'll actually go more in depth about the show kind of in the later half of the episode, what I thought about it, kind of give a review. But for the first half, I actually want to talk about the comic book characters that appeared in the show. So first up, everyone knows Spider-Man's in there. He goes by Ben Reilly in this one, which I thought was interesting, as Ben Reilly is a clone of Spider-Man's from the 90s. He went by Ben from Uncle Ben, and then Riley is on his maiden name, so that's actually where he gets Ben Reilly from. The show will explain why he goes under Ben Reilly. I mean, they don't go into explanation like that, but they do explain why he's Ben Reilly in that show. The other characters I want to talk about were the villains. There's quite a few of them, all taken from Marvel lore. I think everyone knows Sandman, or Flint Marko, or actually William Baker is his actual real name. He first appeared in the Spider-Man 3 movie with Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi, and then he was also in Spider-Man No Way Home. So I don't think we need to cover him a whole lot, because I think he's one of the more popular villains that I think people know. But I did want to point out or show off a couple things. I mean, this is his normal costume. This is what kind of everyone knows him by, is his green shirt and his brown pants. But for a while, in 1981, he had a really, really stupid costume that I wanted to point out, with this weird green bodysuit thing. I also thought that was a great panel. There's Namor the Submariner punching him so hard he just disperses into sand particles, which is, of course, that's what happens when you punch sand, right? Yeah, there's another shot of his costume. Just horrendous. So that was from Amazing Spider-Man. Which one were these? I think it was 214 and 215, and then by issue 217, he is already back to his normal costume, because I think everyone realized just how dumb that costume really looked. So, like I said, that's Sandman, Flint Marko. Like I said, pretty popular character. I was surprised they went with him and not others. The next character I'm going to cover is definitely not a popular character, the Megawatt character, the electricity-based power character, Dirk Leyden. I thought he was Electro at first, until I actually, watching the episode and they say his full name. I was like, well, it's definitely not Max Dillon, so I'm going to have to do a little research to find out who this is. He has one whole appearance in all of Marvel Comics in Spider-Man Unlimited issue number 2. He is not even the main story. He is a backup feature. So there's the main comic book, and then there's the second half of the comic book was its own feature about him. He was an actor who went over to Australia and made it big. They were coming out with a new movie. They wanted to advertise it in America, Bushranger, to capitalize on the success of Crocodile Dundee. And that is what he looks like. He's a silver, muscular, electricity arcing character, which is not quite like the character from the TV show, who is a larger individual, we'll say. I did think it was interesting that the comic book character talked a lot about, like, in reference to old movies. His dialogue wasn't always the easiest to follow, considering he's always quoting classic film. But I think they kind of kept that with the TV show characters. They didn't really have films for him to reference, so he was often quoting classic literature, which also, I'll admit, sometimes made it hard for me to follow as well. But I thought it was kind of interesting. They went really deep into a really obscure character, and probably just so they could do whatever they wanted with them. But that was weird. They go with a super obscure character in Megawatt, but also an actual pretty, I feel, well-known character in Sandman. Another character they went over was, I'll go with Tombstone was next. He actually goes by Lonnie Lincoln. His first appearance is not really very well known, and in Web of Spider-Man 36, he shows up in a couple panels. He's in a limo. Joe Robertson sees him and freaks out. And we're like, what? And that was it. That's the end of the comic book. He does have an ongoing storyline shortly after that in Spectacular Spider-Man, like from 157 to 166 or so, where they actually go into a lot about his history. This particular issue, 139, is his origin. And he actually used to go to school with Joe Robertson. Joe Robertson was going to do an expose on Tombstone, and then Tombstone's like, don't you publish that article, and then so I'm going to beat you up. Make sure you don't do it. So Joe buries the story. He's working as a reporter later. He gets a tip from this guy to go meet him at the docks about a murder, but looks like Tombstone's already shown up and murdered him. He convinces Joe Robertson not to go to the cops again, and it kind of Joe Robertson feels guilty about that for a long time. He feels like he's responsible for those deaths because he didn't, say anything when he knew, I had a pretty good hunch that Tombstone did it. He's brought as an enforcer. He's just a kind of a hitman early in his appearances. He'll kind of evolve from there, and actually as recently as 2000, which one was this? I want to say it's 2024. Amazing Spider-Man 59, also known as 593. This comic book is awesome. Tombstone is just making a play to be the kingpin of crime after the Kingpin leaves the country after Kingpin was mayor for a while, and he kind of leaves in disgrace. So Tombstone decides to pick up the pieces, start a gang war against all kinds of different crime lords, including Silvermane, who we'll come up with later. But why I wanted to feature this comic book is this one is just one giant fight scene between Spider-Man and Tombstone. I don't know if I can. It's hard to show it up and turn the pages. But yeah, this is a comic book. I might even have to do a dramatic reading of all the sound effects, because it's really just an arg and crack and crunch and just violence. It's one of the most bloody, brutal comic books ever, drawn immaculately by John Romita Jr. But yeah, I just wanted to show that one because, like I said, this was just a heck of a lot of fun for a comic book. This is what you want: superheroes and supervillains beating the tar out of each other. That's, like I said, that one's actually just from 2024, so you might even be able to find a copy of that. My personal comic book stores are the Comic Book College in Roseville, Minnesota, or The Source, also in Roseville, Minnesota. Surprisingly enough, they're only a couple blocks from each other. You'd think they'd be competing, but, I mean, Comic Book College is only comic books, where The Source has a little bit of everything, like your Magic the Gathering, your D&D stuff, your Warhammer. So it's, specialty store, or, kind of your nerd, I call it nerd mecca, The Source. And then another character I wanted to go over was Silvermane. Silvermane was kind of a big deal in the show, more than the other characters. I thought he got a lot of features. His first appearance was Amazing Spider-Man 73. He's just a generic old man mobster, gangster guy. This is actually the start of the secret of the petrified tablet, which some of the Spider-Man, the animated series might know, as I remember that was a big storyline in that. It's actually kind of cool to read the original one. Silvermane is kind of an old man. He hurt himself from a fall. He's trying to get that tablet to bring him back to, revitalize him, rejuvenate him. She reverts back to like a toddler in that storyline, comes back to normal. He shows up here and there. Nothing, like I said, he's just kind of a generic mobster guy. It wasn't until Spectacular Spider-Man 69 that he is actually like dying, and Cloak and Dagger go to like attack and try to kill him because apparently his main criminal enterprise was selling drugs, and Cloak and Dagger kind of got their powers off of a designer drug that was being tested on them. I can go into more of their history if need be, but that's just kind of the why they're there and why they're after Silvermane. And then they try to kill him. His bed is booby-trapped, so it explodes. They still believe they kill him, which I thought was kind of dark for a Cloak and Dagger, which are, I mean, really the comic books in the 80s were all as kind of dark as it is, definitely with a lot of the drugs and stuff like that. That was 1982. He doesn't stay dead for long because he comes back as a robot man. This was a couple years before RoboCop, so I don't think they were just, stealing on a popular idea. But yeah, Silvermane, they just put his head on a robot body. And was his big draw for a while. Like and then he became a joke. Most of his appearances after, the 80s is he's just been literally a disembodied head. Right there. There's Tombstone also. I think this is a little bit before the gang war. So, Yeah, Silvermane really never been a very popular character in Marvel. Like I said, just a generic mobster, which they kind of used for the show. So it made sense why they took him for that show. And then the other main character in the show was Cat Hardy, which I don't think it's hard to realize that was Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. Her first appearances were in Spider-Man 194 and 195. It's actually a pretty cool little two-part story. She actually at one point kisses Spider-Man to get out of trouble. I have this actual issue, but I'm not going to show it on camera or open it up because it is a 3-figure comic book, so we can look at the copy I have in this one instead. But yeah, at one point to get away from Spider-Man, she lifts up his mask and plants a smooch on him, and that distracts him long enough for her to run away. So I thought it was interesting that even in her first couple of appearances, she was already, in love with Spider-Man, and and she kind of did that in the show as well. Not really spoilers, but he gets a romantic interest. She's the femme fatale who walks in the private investigator's door, and in Spider-Man Noir. Trying to find her second appearance real quick from 204 and 205, where she actually has is infatuated with Spider-Man, has a giant crush on him, and is stealing artifacts in a shrine to Spider-Man because she's weirdly obsessed with him. I thought were definitely odd with the character in the beginning. They seem to like her. She showed up 10 issues after they first introduced her, but it's just we need to get you to some therapy, girl. You're nuts. Why you love me at this point is crazy. But I actually like that they have Spider-Man and Black Cat in a relationship in the comics in the 80s, from Spectacular Spider-Man 75 until they break up in issue 100 of that same series, Spectacular Spider-Man 100. She has bad luck powers, and then she loses them, and in that storyline she gets them back so she can hang out with Spider-Man, but her bad luck powers start affecting him, so he gets really mad at her, finds out she got the powers from Kingpin, and it's a whole thing, and that's kind of why they break up. It's another fun part about that relationship is she is only attracted to Spider-Man. Whenever he takes off his mask, she's like, "Oh my God, you're hideous, please put the mask back on." So she loves Spider-Man but hated Peter Parker. She has been kind of she's been in and out of the Spider-Man comics for many, many years. Actually, and as of right now, she actually has her own series that's been going since 2025. She just recently had a 4-part storyline with Venom, which I actually thought was pretty cool. Because everyone knows Mary Jane is now Venom, so she had a really embarrassing audition tape that is threatened to be released. So she talks to her friend Felicia, the best cat burglar around, to get back her audition tape so it doesn't see the light of day. It's a fun storyline. Turns out J. Jonah Jameson had it and is in a pocket dimension. Because it's comic books, so they go to this pocket dimension, they get it back. It was mostly a comedy series, or comedy arc, but it was still pretty cool. I like the Black Cat character. When I started reading comic books, was in the 90s, but I got a bunch of the big thick comic books, trade paperbacks of previous issues that I got when I was 10 years old, and those were when Peter Parker and Felicia were actually boyfriend and girlfriend. So I've always kind of liked the Black Cat Spider-Man relationship. I always like the character. I know she's probably rip off of Catwoman, but whatever. I think she's more interesting. She's more fun. I think that's really it. She is a more fun, free-spirited character. So I really enjoyed that. All right, so that was the main characters. So yeah, we had Black Cat, Cat Hardy. We had Silvermane, Silvio Manfredi, excuse me. We got your Megawatt, your Jerk Lydon, electric powers. Lonnie Lincoln was the Tombstone, was the tough-skinned character who was actually not the most villain. You kind of going into his history, we go over Robbie Robertson history as well. Even though it's Joe Robertson, I say Robbie Robertson because the show said Robbie Robertson a lot. Even though when it actually showed a byline, it was Robbie Robertson. Joe Robertson is the father. Robbie is actually a son, sometimes roommate of Peter's. So I thought it's like they wanted to do Robbie, and then it's like, oh, we really should just Joe. So they just made Joe and Robbie the same character. Just whatever. But yeah, so the actual show itself, I enjoyed it. I really like the aesthetic of the the old timiness with the old cars, the old views of the city, kind of like your slums, your back alleys, your the mayor, campaigning on the back of a truck. Kind of all that old time stuff was actually really cool. That was the part I probably enjoyed the most. Nick Cage did an all right job. I guess he has a weird way of speaking, but again, the show will go over that. Maybe at the very end of the video, I'll actually go over spoilers of the show. So, most of the episodes I liked. I feel like some of the action scenes, especially in the early episodes, really reminded me of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, especially the car chase scene. I want to say in episode maybe around 3, where he's on the back of a car. And it really made me feel like the old Spider-Man movie. So I thought it was kind of cool with the nostalgia for that old show. I wonder if they're trying to do that on purpose. And then, of course, with the fact that it takes place in the past. It was really kind of unclear on what year it took place. I'm sure they did that on purpose. So like I said, Black Cat comes in, walks through the door, trying to get, got a case for him. There's someone who tried to kill Silvermane, which gets... I'm trying. I don't know how to go over and not go into spoilers. So overall I like the acting. I like the like I said, the setting and the background. It flowed fairly well. I didn't like the 5th episode where they actually kind of go into the history of how these super powered characters are there. It turns out they're all kind of connected, and they kidnap Ben Reilly because they figure his blood or his I think they take samples from his liver, or is trying to cure the other superpowered characters, your Sandmans, your Megawatts, and whatnot. But he had this whole hallucination for most of the episode, and I hate when they do the hallucinations and he looks back on his past and it's only ever scenes from the first 5 episodes. It's like, well, the guy's had 50-year life, but we're showing scenes from 2 weeks ago is his big revelation. So that wasn't the best. I don't really care that they retcon and tie all the characters together. This is a different universe. This is a different take on Spider-Man Noir. So, tying it up, trying to make the plot a little bit more cohesive is fine, but I just didn't like how they did it. I thought they could have done it a little better, a little bit faster. The climatic showdown with the villains towards the end was mostly cool as an action scene. There is one thing where what Spider-Man does is physically impossible. I know that people say that, but physics do not allow what he did. I was thankful it wasn't the end of the fight scene. He webs 2 different cars, and then he strains and pushes the cars together. So you would need external force from the cars over here to push them where they would pendulum and smash together. You can't just the cars just it just didn't make any sense. But those are more minor gripes. Like I said, overall the show is good. I thought, even though it was 8 episodes, I thought it dragged on a little bit. So I'd probably not mark it quite as high as I originally was. When I was first watching, these are 8 or 9, 10. These are high rated episodes, and then kind of towards the middle it slows down. Some spoilers: Cat Hardy ends up betraying Spider-Man, Spider-Man Ben Reilly, because she's actually in love with Flint Marko. And that kind of kicks off where he gets captured by the scientists. But overall, and also I watched it in black and white. I feel like that was what the showmakers intended, so I did watch it in black and white. Most of the Spider-Man Noir comic books, not the one in the screenshot, that's kind of a newer one, but a lot of the original ones are mostly black and white, and they'll do some pops of color for important things like some red, for an important part. So overall, I thought the series was pretty good. I recommend it. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. So that's kind of it for my Spider-Man Noir review. Let me know what you like. If you thought it was a good show, it was a bad show, just let me know in the comments below. Also, remember to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm done with this conversation.